What would you do if your son was at home, crying all alone on the bedroom floor because he's hungry? And the only way to feed him is to sleep with a man for a little bit of money. According to the progressive left, this is a more reasonable solution to your economic problems than voting for Trump. Not that there's anything wrong with being a sex worker. I digress. Folks, the Donald is back. The man who's made as many political comebacks as the McRib, and the left has declared as the second coming of Adolf Hitler. If you're sitting there clutching your pearls wondering how this happened, don't worry. You're not alone. A lot of pundits are too busy yelling at the clouds to actually analyze what went wrong for the Democrats and what went right for Trump. But that's what we're here for. Let's call it like it is. This election wasn't about culture wars, celebrity endorsements, or even the countless times a famous actor called Trump voters deplorables from their Hollywood mansions. This was about the economy. It was about how regular people who are far more concerned with the price of groceries than Taylor Swift's tweets felt the Democrats just weren't listening to them. Meanwhile, Trump rolled up in a metaphorical garbage truck, ate some McDonald's on camera, and reminded everyone of their frustrations with inflation, gas prices, and endless finger-pointing. Will he fix things? I don't know. Probably not. But let's save that for another video. Today, we're going to break it down step by step. We're going to do an autopsy on the modern Democratic Party. Let's dive in. All right, here's the quick and dirty guide to how elections in America work. The presidency isn't decided by the popular vote alone. It's the Electoral College that seals the deal. Each state gets a number of electoral votes based on its size, adding up to 538 nationwide. So a candidate needs 270 electoral votes to win. Here's the twist. Most states are winner takes all. If you win the popular vote in a state like Florida by even one vote, you scoop up all its electoral votes. That's why battleground states like Michigan and Pennsylvania are so important. Now, the popular vote is still tracked, but it's more like a participation trophy. It doesn't decide the presidency. That's how Trump lost the popular vote in 2016 and still won. This time, though, he snagged both, silencing critics who once dismissed his appeal. And then we have the House. Trump won that as well, meaning Trump's second term will face fewer obstacles from lawmakers. Next, let's dive into who actually voted for Trump. The story of this election lies in the shifts, who showed up, who didn't, and where they changed their minds. Trump didn't just hold his base, he made some unexpected gains in demographics the Democrats have long counted on. Here's the breakdown. There was no surprise with white voters. More than 8 in 10 Trump voters were white, just like in 2020. He won a majority of white voters overall, particularly in the swing states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, flipping them back to red. Nationally, 8.5 in 10 black voters supported Harris, but that's down from 9 in 10 who backed Biden in 2020. Trump nearly doubled his support among young black men under 45, pulling in about 3 in 10 votes from this group, a significant increase. Trump also made inroads with Hispanic voters. Well, Harris won just over half of Hispanic voters. That's a drop from Biden's 6 in 10 in 2020. Roughly half of Latino men backed Trump, marking a clear shift towards the GOP. Now let's get into age. Harris held the edge among 18 to 29-year-old voters, but the turnout here was lower than expected, a big miss for the Democrats. Trump managed to slightly improve his share among young black and Hispanic voters. Trump saw his share of 30 to 44-year-old voters increase this time, where the data showed growing frustrations with the economy and inflation. Then we get into the 45-plus demo, where Trump outperformed among these voters, as he did in 2020. These voters were more likely to prioritize issues like the economy and border security. Also, I got to touch on gender here. Overall, Kamala garnered 54% of the female votes. Trump won with 52% of white women, while Kamala won with black and Hispanic women, garnering 92% and 61% of their votes, respectively. Next, let's get into location. When it came to urban areas, there was no shock here. Harris performed best, winning the majority of urban voters. Then, when we talk about the suburbs, which is always the key battleground, the numbers shook out eerily similar to 2020. Next, we have rural areas where Trump continued to dominate with overwhelming support. Here, the GOP's message about inflation and crime clearly struck a chord. Lastly, Trump widened his lead among voters with a high school education or less, pulling in 28% of the Dems' voters from 2020. Well, when it came to college-educated voters, Harris won this group, but Trump chipped away at her margins slightly compared to Biden. His message about the economy resonated with some in this traditionally Democratic-leaning demographic. So what were the issues that mattered? Well, in the months leading up to the election, surveys by Pew Research revealed that a staggering 93% of Trump voters ranked the economy as a very important issue to their vote, while 68% of Dem voters considered it to be important. It's really hard for me to wrap my head around how those numbers are that low on both sides. I don't understand how the number's not 100% of people. Anyways, let's move on. In one poll from Gallup, 3 in 5 Americans said recent price increases have caused financial hardship for their households. This was something that Trump beat up Kamala over leading up to the election. Meanwhile, a couple other polls that are worth noting is that an NBC poll showed that 72% of Americans were either angry or dissatisfied with the way things are going in the U.S., and one CNN exit poll showed that 2/3 of voters described the U.S. economy as not good or poor. From looking at these exit polls, it looks to me like the election came down to this. 1, it's about the economy and inflation, and 2, it's largely about dissatisfaction with the current government, which is why it was so important for the Dems to show that Kamala was going to move on from Biden's policies. Okay, so let's wrap it up. The Democrats didn't just fumble. They tried to play soccer on a basketball court. Their biggest mistake was failing to address the one thing voters cared about the most: the economy. Kamala leaned into Biden's policies like a sequel nobody asked for, promising more of the same in a country where 72% of voters were screaming, "We hate the status quo." And don't even get me started on the youth vote, which was so important for the Dems. Propping up Biden for another term was like re-releasing Windows XP and expecting Gen Z to understand what any of it means. Then they bypassed an open primary for Kamala, reminding everyone of the time the Dems sandbagged Bernie Sanders. Was the election about being too woke? Probably a little. More importantly, the Democrats treated voters like they were extras in a Hollywood movie, rolling out Julia Roberts and George Clooney. Come on, who's watching gas prices climb and thinking, well, Julia Roberts thinks everything's fine, so I guess I'll just pay my bill and tighten up my belt. And don't even get me started on late night hosts lecturing middle America about morality, calling people racist for worrying about their bills. Bold move, Cotton.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
At the end of the day, elections boil down to 2 motivations: inspiration or desperation. You inspire people to get off their butts and vote, or you piss them off enough that they might do the same in the opposite direction. Kamala failed to inspire people, and Biden did a great job of pissing them off. You either vote for a brighter future or because your current reality feels like drowning with bricks in your pockets. This time, desperation won. When your grocery bill looks like a receipt for a yacht and your paycheck feels like Monopoly money, nobody cares about what Taylor Swift thinks. So yeah, the Democrats missed the memo, and Trump scooped up the votes. Will he fix everything? Of course not. But I guess when your house is on fire, you call the guy with the bucket, even if he's wearing a MAGA hat and eating McNuggets. All right, guys, we're trying to make more content for you guys. Some of it you're going to like, some of it you're not going to like. But if you did like it, please smash that like button and ring that notification bell. If you didn't like it, tell me why you hate me in the comment section. I can handle it. All right, everybody. I love y'all.